How's it going today? I hope everybody's feeling well and that you guys are ready for this Halloween themed reading. Halloween is always an exciting time for spiritually minded people, and that's why I decided to make this pick a card reading Halloween themed. But before we jump into it, I have a few announcements to make. So if you're interested in getting a Halloween reading shortly before Halloween or on Halloween, you can book it on Patreon or PayPal. And I think I'm gonna have the offer appear on the screen somewhere. So you can also check it out in the description box as well. You'll find all information cited there. And if you'd like to join the monthly lottery, you can also do that on Patreon. This month's lottery is also going to be Halloween themed. So whoever's name gets picked is going to receive a Halloween reading. So let's jump into the video then. I have 4 cards prepared for you. And the way we're going to do this is you're gonna have to decide which card you find the most scary or the spookiest. Which one do you find the most intimidating? And then I'm going to reveal what that I think means regarding you and your fears. And then there's going to be an additional card to give you an insight into how you can conquer your fears. I think this is one of the main reasons why Halloween is so great, is that we can openly express and experiment with and play with our fears. And I thought, what better deck to do this with than the Santa Muerte Tarot. So let me show you the cards. Please give a look and try to connect with your feelings. So we're looking for that visceral reaction of what scares you, of which one do you find, which one of these cards do you find most intimidating. So instead of using your mind, please try to use your intuition and tap into your own feelings and allow them to guide you in the picking process. So all 4 of these cards are major arcana cards, so let's just start with the first one, which is a scary card in any deck, but I think in this one it's particularly terrifying. It's the Devil. So that's the first option. The next one is the Hermit. So I'm just trying to show you these cards up close. The third card is the Magician. And the last one is the Hanged Man. All right. So now go ahead and take your pick while I'm doing a little bit of shuffling. And I'm going to pick, like I said in the beginning, I'm going to pick another card for each one to give us more information for the reading. So this one is for the Devil. Second one for the Hermit. The third one for the Magician. And finally, the Hanged Man. And you can find the timestamps in the comments and also in the description. So you can just skip right to the part of the video where I'm discussing your card. But if you picked the first option, the Devil, then you don't need to go anywhere because we're gonna get right into it. Let me just see the additional card. It's the Five of Wands. A pretty scary card also. Alright, so first of all, as promised, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about why I think you picked the Devil. The Devil is, like I said in the beginning, a classic scary card. He embodies everything that terrifies us about human nature. And although we present it as if it was a superhuman entity, we all deep down, I think, know that the Devil exemplifies and embodies qualities that are deeply human. And one way of dealing with these nasty, negative qualities is exactly that. It's exactly creating a different entity, the Devil, and blaming it for all of our negative tendencies. And so your fears are largely directed at yourself originally. So you're afraid of what you are capable of. You're afraid of your own dark side, your own evilness. And people who are scared of this card, I think, are not willing to accept the negative and potentially imperfect and harmful parts of themselves. So there's a good chance that you're a perfectionist and a people pleaser, that you really want to not harm anybody under any circumstances, and that you're just trying your best to please everyone and not hurt anybody, not offend anybody, and not harm anybody, which I think is a fundamentally good thing, but it's also, and here comes the twist, it's also narcissistic, because it comes from your devilish desire to be loved and celebrated by everyone. It's a power play. So I understand that that you're afraid of hurting anyone, that you're afraid of being a bad person, and I can definitely identify with that. But I think the key here, and this is represented by the Five of Wands, is to recognize that true respect for another human being comes from your readiness to confront them, to have conflict with them if necessary. So the devil is your fear and your rejection of everything within you that you despise. Selfishness, self-absorbed, self-obsessed, narcissistic, and potentially harmful tendencies. But this card is telling me that a good way to get over this fear and a good way to normalize your relationship with your quote-unquote dark side is to consciously allow yourself to light a fire when necessary. The Five of Wands represents the conflict, the clash of interests that people very often have. The good thing about this card is it's not like the Five of Swords, where the conflict is often just imagined, or it's complicated by mental fog. It is conflict in its purest form because it's associated with the element of fire. So it's a spontaneous expression of people with different intentions and different wills colliding. And allowing yourself to say no, allowing yourself to perhaps be less than perfect when you're interacting with other people. Perhaps being selfish, perhaps being sloppy, unreliable, antagonistic, whatever it may be, it can be healing for you. So, and of course, this is something that needs to be done in moderation. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, if you feel like what I said about the Devil card applies to you, then you're already very careful not to hurt anybody. So a little bit of conflict can actually be beneficial. If you picked the second card, the Hermit, we actually have another major arcana card, Judgment, show up for you. So let's first talk about why I think you picked the Hermit as the scariest of all of these options. The Hermit is lying in this womb-like coffin, and he's on the verge of life and death, obviously. And he's laying in the complete darkness, this unforgiving, relentless universe that is not giving him any answers. And he's just laying there, and the only thing that he can rely on is his own light. So this is the essence, if you will, of the Hermit card. This notion of not being able to rely on anybody else but yourself. And that's also the beauty of it. That's what makes it special, and a deeply spiritual card. But your fear comes from this sense of loneliness. Your fear is that no one else is looking out for you, that the universe is a cold, hard place, and that there's no God, that there's nothing out there, and it's just you and your own light. And it's also a fear of being born, I think, especially when it's combined with the Judgment card, which is 100% about rebirth, new beginnings. And it's such a beautiful card in this deck because it quite literally represents the new life that is beginning at a kind of a funeral-like event. So it's a beautiful manifestation of how the end of something can also be the beginning of a new chapter. So it seems like there's a lot of apprehension here in this Hermit card of confronting the world, being afraid of leaving your little comfort zone, which is familiar to you, but it's also very torturous. So it's a fear of exceeding your own limitations, not trusting that there's anything out there outside of this coffin that is worth exploring, feeling abandoned and neglected, and just fearing a new start, I think. So the Judgment card is actually the best news that you could get at this point, because it's telling me that the reason you're watching this video and the reason you picked this card and the reason Judgment came up is to inform you that this process has already begun, that your soul is already craving to be released from this uncomfortable comfort zone, that it's absolutely unavoidable, that you will be yanked out of it. And when I use the word yank, that obviously conjures up some negative imagery in your head. And I did that on purpose because this process of being born again, of giving birth to yourself, is an uncomfortable one. And a lot like a real actual physical birth. For the baby, it is also uncomfortable because they have to leave this familiar, warm, soft place and be thrown out into the world where it's cold and hard, and that is unfamiliar territory to them. So, judgment is a celebration of your birth. It's already happening. It's an irreversible process. And you can try to fight it. You can try to go against it. But sooner or later, it's going to happen anyway. So it's not even a matter of choice. You're going to confront this fear. It's a very ancient fear, and it's deeply archetypal, so it's not specific to you. Many people have gone through the same thing, and they have come out on the other side a lot happier and more confident in themselves and in the world. So, good luck to you. If you picked the third option, the Magician, I believe, represents your fear of being manipulated. And let's see what the next card is. It's the Ace of Cups. So the manipulation that you fear is of an emotional nature. So when it comes to this image, I think the reason you picked this one, the reason you found the Magician to be the scariest of all, is because it represents your belief that there are people out there who have not your best interest at heart, and who are consciously and intentionally trying to inflict some pain upon you, and that are aggressive, but not in a physical way, because that would be easy to identify and easy to fight back. You're more scared of the emotional trickery that some people play. And I'm going to be honest with you, this is a legit fear. So obviously we need to be very careful to not be manipulated by others, to not be used and humiliated and played with. But the thing is, this fear has a tendency to be really pervasive and overwhelming. So once your mind and your soul is dominated by this fear, you forget how to be emotionally expressive, how to open up to other people, how to make connections with them, because you're just in this trance of being afraid of manipulation. So it feels like you can't trust anybody, because everybody is a dark, manipulative, evil magician. The truth is, not everybody is like that. And you cannot live your life being afraid of being taken advantage of all the time. So, a good way to move forward and to deal with this fear, because it is emotional in nature. So, you're not afraid of, I don't think, you're not afraid of being taken advantage of in a financial manner or in a physical way, because those are easily detectable. You can easily identify when someone is, just after your money or is trying to get something out of you. But when there's an emotional component, when they are trying to control you and manipulate you with your feelings, that's something that strikes fear within your heart, and I understand that. But the solution to this is actually a little bit counterintuitive, but I think it works. It's to become more open. So instead of hiding your emotional vulnerabilities, your secrets, your negative feelings of shame or inadequacy or your anxieties, your fears. So instead of harboring these feelings and not revealing them to the world, your goal should be to be more transparent, more open. The Ace of Cups is about this overflowing of emotions. So it's kind of a beautiful expression of when you get so emotional that you cannot even control it anymore. So allowing yourself to tap into that vulnerable mode of being actually makes you less susceptible to emotional manipulation. And let me explain why. People who are emotional manipulators, they thrive on unexpressed, unarticulated, and suppressed feelings. So the more of those feelings you have, the more secrets and unexpressed feelings you have, the more likely that some of these predators will appear at your front door wanting to get in. And it kind of reminds me of what some celebrities have been doing recently when they were extorted with their nude images being leaked. Their response was to simply release them themselves. And that was a great move. I think it's a genius move because it takes away the power of the predators, of those people who prey upon your weaknesses. So admitting to your weaknesses and willingly exposing them to the world, being self-deprecating, being honest, genuine, sincere about your struggles and your emotions is going to stop this problem. So I wish you good luck and happy Halloween. So if you picked the last option, which is the Hanged Man, I can definitely relate to you because it is the most terrifying of all four images for me as well. So let's see what the card says. It's the Knight of Swords. Interesting. Well, so first of all, as promised, why did you pick this card, in my opinion? The Hanged Man represents stagnation, an inability to move forward in life, being stuck and spellbound. And the thing about the Hanged Man is that it can represent self-sabotage. And so I think your fear is rooted in your lack of confidence within yourself. You're scared of your own, shall I say, laziness or lack of motivation, lack of strength, lack of ambition to finish the things that you started. So it's a fear of becoming stale, of energies becoming stale and stagnant and being stuck. It's certainly a valid fear, and a lot of us struggle with procrastination, with just a fear of getting things done, sometimes even getting started with things. So the Hanged Man represents this fear of our own lack of motivation, which I think is certainly a very scary thing. And there's no bigger enemy to us than ourselves. There's nobody in this world who can stand in your way like you can. The good news is that the solution is in your hands, that you can most definitely do something against this. It's in your power to change things. Let's see how. We have the Knight of Swords. And the thing about swords is that they represent mental energy. They represent air. But when it comes to the Knight of Swords, it's a card that represents swift and sometimes rushed decisions. But it definitely is more connected with actions, taking action, than any other court card in the sword suit. So it's a very highly animated and dynamic card. And the imagery in this deck is quite interesting because it seems like this skeleton figure is swallowing a sword. Kind of like one of those circus freaks, you know, like kind of like a circus show. And the sword represents thoughts, and the act of swallowing thoughts, to me, indicates that whatever you're thinking about your situation right now, whatever your conscious thoughts are, make them disappear, integrate them into your system, just swallow them. Swallow your pride, swallow your fear, swallow your disbelief, and just charge forward. The Knight of Swords often indicates situations where time is of the essence. So this fear is certainly justified because you don't have any time to waste. And being afraid of your own lack of action is actually a valid fear, because you can't mess around anymore. Time is of the essence. You need to make a move forward. And the other thing about the Knight of Swords is to not think about it too much. So there's no need to deliberate, to come up with plans, and to be overly rational about any of it at this point. It's more important that you do something quick than sit around and think about it and analyze it and all of that. So whatever you do it quickly and without thinking. So try to turn off that part of yourself, that doubtful, overly critical, and antagonizing part that keeps telling you that you can't do this. The key to your success and the key to get out of this feeling of being stuck is to be brave and just do it. I know it sounds easy, but this is what the cards are saying. Don't overthink it. Keep it simple and take the leap of faith that you need to take. Thank you for watching, and happy Halloween to all of you. And I hope to see you in my next video.